Hello, Lucy here. Just a reminder to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Whether you're new here or a regular listener, thank you for being part of this journey. We have got so many incredible guests lined up, so stay tuned and subscribe now. Hello and welcome to this week's bonus episode of The Wilderness of Creativity. Have you ever wondered how finding a routine that truly works for you can transform your day? Or how a sense of calm and stability can make all the difference? Well, now imagine being a parent of a child recently diagnosed with autism. A child who is struggling with school anxiety and the challenges that come with transitions. Joining us today is Jo Long, a parenting coach who specialises in supporting mums and families. Jo combines her lived experience with practical tools to help people move out of survival mode and into thriving mode. In this episode, we talk about Jo's initial reactions and insight following the diagnosis of her child's autism, creative parenting strategies, and the journey of learning to love autism through creative writing. Remember, if you enjoy the episode, then please share it with a friend and remember to rate and review the show. Right, let's get to the episode.
I'm a parenting coach for working mums of autistic and ADHD children up to 11 years old. And my son, I nicknamed him Bookasaurus. See if you can guess why. And he's bright and quirky, and he's autistic with ADHD. And I just, when autism was first mentioned, I just felt really on my own. My husband, bless him, was on a different acceptance journey. And I was like, I don't want other mums to feel that way, because it's so much to get your head round and process, and you go through, as we were saying, so many different thoughts and feelings, and I didn't know how to best support my son, and I just didn't have any friends or family who'd been through a similar experience.
What was your understanding of autism at that time? And had you noticed patterns of behaviour that you were kind of more aware of?
I had very little knowledge of autism or ADHD when it was mentioned to myself and my husband. I noticed that at nursery, they said that he wasn't meeting his milestones, but that he had this huge vocabulary, and bright, but he, couldn't do sort of what seems maybe simple things like hold a crayon or cut with scissors. That he just moved, he moved around constantly. And they'd already mentioned stimming to me, which is a repetitive action. And one of his big things is he runs back and forwards to calm and regulate himself. So I had, there were things, sort of sensory processing had been mentioned. And I was actually incredibly worried about him going from nursery to infant school, because I wasn't sure, how he was going to cope. And I sort of said a little bit to the school, but at that point we didn't know that much about it. So it was a really big shock when they said, you might want to look into autism. And they listed, things that he was pulling other children's hair, he was knocking things over, other children's, toys. And it's horrible hearing those things about your child. and not really understanding why. And you feel so guilty, about how it's affecting other people, the other children. You don't, you feel like a bad parent, that it's somehow your fault.
Such an unknown as well, like you said, because, just not knowing who to turn to, what that path is going to look like. And as you say, feeling very alone and isolated in that room. And then somehow you have managed to come out of that and turn your attention to celebrating and championing and supporting other parents who are going through this process. And as you say, learning to love autism, which is so
Yeah.
special. So did you get support as you started to move through the process? Like, who did you reach out to, and what sorts of resources did you find, and how did creativity play a part in that?
So we got some support when he was at nursery. Um, a lady came in from the council and observed him. And we started using a now and next board. Um, so he got to, choose an activity or do a little workstation, do this and do a puzzle, and then you get to do something that you like, and then you do this. So yeah, that's sort of, and then I used that at home, and I had my own little piece of cardboard and different, different choices on there that he could use. Um, so that was, yeah, we got nursery were very supportive. Um, and then at school, um, although that was a difficult time, they were very supportive, and carried on with the now next board. Um, and I think at home, particularly during COVID, because he was at home with me. The first time round was terrible because but the second time I kind of um I made a decision that I wasn't going to work in the morning, and then I managed to work it out with work. So I was looking after in the morning, and my husband was sort of looking after him for part of the afternoon. So I kind of took on the teacher role, as many of us did. And I really quite enjoyed it, actually. I know for some parents it was it was not a great experience, but so doing things like, because he really needs movement. So he wouldn't sit at that time. He wouldn't sit in front of a screen for very long, and a lot of the teaching with the teachers was over a screen. So I got him out in the garden, and we would do his like letter sounds. But again, I would have them. He would be one end of the garden, I would be the other end of the garden, and I'd have them all written out on pieces of card, and he'd run to the end of the garden, grab the ch sound, and then bring it back to me. Um, and then we do things like putting them like on the ground in the living room. Maybe it's numbers or something, and he'd have to jump from one number to another. So you start to get creative with parenting, um, and helping them to learn.
Those little hooks, I think, they're
Yeah,
key,
uh,
aren't they?
absolutely. I go very much with Bucosaurus's strengths and interests. So I will hide pictures of like superheroes around the house.
Brilliant. I love it.
And along with like a letter or a number or something to make up a word, and then we'll go on a treasure hunt, and find the superheroes, because he loves Marvel and all things superheroes. So yeah, absolutely. If you go with their strengths, like dinosaurs, or that's what catches their interests, and works really well throughout parenting. So I do a lot of that.
Well, I mean, there's 3 ideas there already that parents can try, so
Absolutely.
that's amazing, thank you. And I think it's about meeting the child where they are. There are rules and routines, and quite often children, with autism and ADHD, they find those rules and regulations and those routines really restrictive. Sitting at desks doesn't always work. They do
Mm,
need that movement and those movement
mm,
breaks, and so I think it's important that schools work with parents and try and find a way to support that individual child.
mm. Absolutely, and they are all individual,
Yeah.
um, just as everybody is. Um, and yes, I've learned to build relationships with many different people, but yes, particularly school, um, because yeah, you have. Well, I find it incredibly helpful to work with school, um, work with the Thesaurus teachers, and build those relationships. Um, and also, I know we say about we know our child best, and we don't always feel that way, but I think I've learnt a lot about Bookosaurus and become more intuitive and creative. And you do have to advocate for your child, and but in a because teachers, they're very busy. They have lots of children to teach. Um, they don't always get the training that would make things a lot easier. But yeah, we can say to them, this works for Bookosaurus. Movement breaks work for Bookosaurus. Visuals work for my child. Movement break cards. Present a movement break card to your teacher, and then it's really simple, and they know, okay, you need to go outside for a little bit.
And I think that becomes really tricky, doesn't it, when, as you were saying, if there's the teacher and the TA in that room and they've got, say, 25, 30 children, and making sure that they have capacity to take that child out for a movement break whilst keeping the rest of the lesson sort of ticking along. It's those moments are really hard, aren't they? But as you say, if they are aware of the things that are needed to support that child, then they should be able to accommodate that. But we need more TAs, we need more people training, as teaching assistants.
Absolutely.
Like you said, that training is so important. When you say that you've become more creative and intuitive, can you just give some context as to what you were doing before you started learning to love autism?
So I used to work in local government, so yeah, very different. Um, and so I was a community development worker. I did lots of partnership working with other organisations, the police and the Nepalese community and different faith groups. Um, a- and yes, equality and diversity. Um, but I also did, and I enjoyed all of that. Um, and it sort of got to that point in my career, and I was thinking, uh, I want to be a manager. I want to help other people. Um, so I went for a promotion. I changed councils, and became a manager. But a lot of people relate to this. It wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be, and I actually started, moving away from the community and the people that I wanted to help. Uh, and I just got to the stage where I just felt really trapped in a job that it wasn't aligned to me anymore. And I think, that's so important that you're doing something that you enjoy, and is about you, is your why. And yeah, I at the same time, Bucosaurus was going through diagnosis, and I was filling out all the forms out for his EHCP. And he was about sort of 4 going on 5 at this time. And yeah, I was just finding it really, really hard. And I decided to work with a coach. And she was somebody that I kind of already knew. She was actually somebody that had actually brought myself and my husband together.
Oh,
Which was that, yeah. So yeah,
she's a very special person.
she's a very special person in our lives. She's me. So yeah, so I started working with her, and on one of our sessions, she just said to me, "Why don't you just quit your job?" Because I'd said, "I'm just so, I've had enough, and I really just want to break." And she said, "Well, why don't you just quit your job?" And I said, "Oh God, that would be so nice." And then I said, "But I can't do that."
Yeah.
But yeah, she helped me. She worked, and I worked through it, and I did quit my job. Um, and that was huge. But I realized kind of just how actually exhausted I was. And I just sort of slept for, once I'd come out of it, just sort of slept for a few weeks.
It's a tiredness that's beyond sort of needing an 8 o'clock bedtime routine. It's a body, a full body, physical, emotional, spiritual exhaustion. And when you get to that point, the only thing that you can do is rest and sleep and step back. And it's so brave of you to do that, but so necessary because it shifted you into the right direction.
Yes, absolutely.
How did learning to love autism then start to evolve?
So my coach, she was encouraging me to look after myself, and look at all the self care, and sleep, and eat well, and yeah, just generally look after myself. And I hadn't really done that before, because we don't, as mums, we tend to put ourselves last on the list. But to look after our children and our families, we do need to look after ourselves first. Um, so I started doing that, and then I started to blog about my journey with Bucosaurus. And I started to get, really into it. And I just sort of discovered my creativity again, just, from being back at school. English was always my favorite and best subject. And people were saying to me, I didn't know you could write like that. And have you been on a course? Or
No, I'm just naturally gifted. This is my creative habit. That's brilliant.
And but it was really therapeutic, because I was writing about what I was experiencing with Bucosaurus, play dates, and going through the diagnosis process, and all the emotions that are involved with that, the relief, but oh my goodness, he is autistic. but yeah, getting it down on paper or on the script, typing it out. And I just started to and I was putting in tips as well. And all my friends, was like sharing it with friends on Facebook and things like that. And everybody was coming back and saying, "Oh, I'm really enjoying this." And I'm sitting down and reading my cup, having my cup of tea and reading it. And, the tips are useful for any parents, not just those of Zen children. Um, and then, yes, again, my coach said to me, "Jo, why don't you help other mums? Why don't you become a coach?" And I thought, wow, yeah, I could help other mums. 'Cause my knowledge was growing, and I've always liked helping other people, and I've always been very good, one to one. And yeah, I started sort of doing it kind of informally, and mums were saying it's just so nice to talk to somebody who gets it. And yeah, and then I started training with a local autism charity who a friend had told me about, and doing their empowering parents course with this, and then I did their family support worker training and volunteered with them. Um, and my coach was training me up. So yeah, all of this sort of coming together. And then I just thought, it's more than just accepting autism. It is about seeing Bucosaurus's strengths and understanding that, okay, he has different challenges and needs, but he just thinks differently. It's not a deficit. It's a real strength. I mean, he has an incredible mind, uh, an incredible memory. Um, he can reel off hundreds of trains to me. He's got a real interest in steam trains and diesel trains. Um, and he can read something very quickly, take all the information in, and then regurgitate it and tell us all about it.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. They are, yeah. And I've talked to a lot of different people. I think I have, from going to knowing nobody with autism, I just bump into people now all the time. Yeah, anybody with a connection with autism, and they tell me their stories. And I love listening to their stories. Um, and adults too, of how they've built a business, or they found coping mechanisms. They use a scheduler or a day planner, or they have alarms just if they're ADHD, just to stop them flitting from kind of one thing to another.
Because Bucosaurus has autism but also ADHD as well.
He
So they're
does,
combined. And
yes.
so that will obviously present further challenges because there is an inattentiveness or a hyperactivity. So it's either one or the other, although you can have both as well, can't you?
He's both inattentive and hyper.
So how does that present itself then in his patterns of behaviour?
So he does flit from one thing to another. But again, so he can be reading a book and watching a screen at the same time. He has huge energy, so he does need that throughout the day, that regular movement. It's going at his own pace and allowing him processing time, and small group work works better for him than being like in a mainstream classroom.
Do you have certain things that you do every day that help him? Or do you have to get creative with changing things up and surprising him every now and again?
So just, yeah, getting him from one room to another. Um, our routine now is that he will take a book. So from the bedroom to the bathroom, uh, books are his sort of comfort. So he will take a book from the bedroom to the bathroom to then, clean his teeth. Quite often we will read a bit of the book before he's then, ready to do anything else. We also have a trampoline in the dining room. That really gives him that sort of touchy-feely impact into his body that he doesn't get naturally. It's called proprioceptive sensory input. And yeah, so that's again part of our morning routine. So I will say to him, "Oh, do you need to have a bounce?" Or sometimes he'll just jump on the trampoline. Um, so yeah, using a book and reading, um, and we just have we have a set routine that gets him from sort of one place to another. Um, if we're having if he's got things on his mind, um, we had one day sort of during the winter where um, I thought he was okay. It was the end of the holiday. It might have been like February half term, and he said a couple of little things, but I thought, no, he's absolutely fine. And but then he wouldn't go into school in the morning, and you kind of think, well, yeah, he's fine. I can't think of anything. But he was absolutely adamant he wasn't going into school, which is not like him. But I know there is always a trigger uh, to his behaviour and to any child's behaviour, and it's very frustrating when you try to get to work. And so, and we do this thing of we try sort of to convince them that they really do want to go into school. um but actually the thing to do is sort of step back and calm ourselves and not rush things. So we just went for I rang school, but we just went for a walk. And we got to there's a pond that's very near us. And he wanted to crack crack the ice with a stick. So I clung onto him on the side
Yeah.
of the and I'm not recommending this. But yeah, and he cracked the ice. Um, but it was just a way of sort of a sort of displacement approach. So um, just getting them to relax and do something else, and not put pressure on him to tell me why he didn't want to go into school. So he was just cracking the ice, and then I started to um, ask him some questions and see how he was feeling. And then it all kind of flooded out all the reasons why he didn't want to go into school. And I think there just, been some changes at school, and there were several different things. And yeah, school were really supportive, and we went in and we did manage to get him in to have a meeting with his teacher, and we managed to sort it all out. Um, yeah, so doing those sort of things, and it's very tricky, but trying to take the pressure off them and ourselves. Um, and that's when they'll open up.
Mm. And I think for anyone who's listening who's perhaps, has experienced that themselves, of the frustration of needing to get their child into school and needing to get to work or have an appointment or something. And in that moment, just stepping back and you've been there. So all of these experiences when you're talking to people who come to your workshops or who, who work with you in a coaching capacity, really feel that you're with them side by side, and there's no judgment, there's no pressure, there's no expectation. You are completely just allowing them to feel what they feel. It's like the card that came up when we chatted last week. It's okay to feel how you feel.
Uh, Definitely, definitely. It's yeah, I'm that neutral space, that's that people, mums can talk to me, and yeah, I know how it feels. Um and they can just say whatever they like to me. Um they can just really, because I'm not their boss, I'm not their mother, I'm not, I'm not their friend who's going to be maybe a little bit judgmental or doesn't quite understand. Um, and they can just totally open up to me and tell me how they're really thinking and feeling. I get it.
It sounds very collaborative, the process of creating solutions, listening to what that person, what that family needs, what that mum needs, and, spitballing a few ideas and staying open-minded and, as you say, looking for the strengths that the child has and drawing on those. Because I think, I've read a few things recently where opinion is very split, isn't it? Some people will say, this isn't a superpower. It's stressful, it's frustrating. But then you've got other people that say, actually, this it's about mindset. It is a strength. It is a superpower. We can thrive.
We're all different, and we all think differently as well. And neurodiversity is just a different way of the brain functioning. And yeah, I'm always looking for the positives. And as I said, I've spoken to so many adults as well about their stories. Of people, well, my brother-in-law doesn't mind me mentioning him, but he's on the spectrum, and he's now an engineer. And he can see, with his amazing brain, he can see processes and patterns, and he can spot things that other people wouldn't. Um, Somebody else mentioned to me their husband. He can spot faces, so he can um, spot and memorize faces. Um, my mum was telling me, probably quite a few people know, I don't know, but Chris Packham is autistic, and he's definitely got an amazing brain with all the information about wildlife that he can. Uh, and he had somebody on who was talking about, I think it was bird calls, and he'd collected and memorized and noted down all these different bird calls, all the British, and he had bird calls, and he just had a handful left to get. So there are many strengths and skills that a neurodiverse person has, that, and as long as I think they understand themselves, and they know that, like Bucosaurus, he's got an incredible memory, but he finds coordination hard, swimming, handwriting, those things are tricky, but he knows why those things are tricky. And obviously a lot of people who are now grown-ups, they didn't know, and they were wondering why they were struggling so much with certain things.
It must feel so strange knowing that perhaps you do think differently, but don't know where to go for information, or, where to go with that, because information and research has come on so much.
Yes, yeah, so much more awareness now, and autism has always been there, and neurodiversity has always been there. And yeah, people's understanding is growing. Um, and I know there's still a long way to go, but um, yeah, and it is, I think, hard when you don't understand yourself. Um, because like you said, you don't necessarily know where to go. And yeah, I think, certainly a lot of adults who they've been masking for the majority of their lives, sort of hiding their true selves and trying to be like everybody else. Um, yeah, so I think it must be, yeah, liberating, but an awful lot of questions for people when they sort of have that light bulb moment, and again a journey of acceptance as well.
So Bookosaurus loves books. Does he enjoy the arts? How does he express his creativity?
He does like music. We were at a Donkey Derby earlier in half term, and they had a band um, playing, and we sat there for sort of 10 minutes, him eating his ice cream, and when quite often I ask him at the end of the day, what was your favourite thing about today? And he says the band, which I wasn't expecting. So he really likes music. We listen to quite a lot of Spotify, and we dance around in the in the bedroom
Love
together.
it.
So my two of my brothers-in-law, they were jamming in the we were at grandma's last weekend, and one of them was playing the guitar and the other one was singing. And Bookosaurus came along and said, "Can I join in?" And they said, "Oh, well, what do you want to sing about?" He said he had a character called Astrobot from PlayStation, and who's one of his favourites. So yeah, he sung about Astrobot.
And did he just make up the lyrics as he was going on?
Yeah. And my brother-in-law, who's also very good at that, he helped him with the lyrics, and my other brother-in-law, played on the guitar. So it's just these wonderful like moments. Yeah, really sweet.
Because you have to kind of live in the moment, don't you?
I think children, they just want to have fun.
They do. I can just imagine a house of people loving each other in the best way. That's kind of what I imagine. Like lots of laughter, and I'm not saying it's been easy. I know it hasn't been, but you've embraced it, and I think that says it all, doesn't it?
It does, yes. It just got to go with the flow, and embrace it, and enjoy it. Yeah, things become a lot easier and more enjoyable if we do embrace it and have some fun. We are enough. It doesn't always feel like that, but you're doing a great job.